1340 WJOL. And it is I, Eddie Ruettiger from the Ruettiger Group at Baird and Warner. And it is time to get real with Eddie, talking about all the real estate going on in the area and around. And today, for the first time, my host with me from Radon Express, none other than Rebecca Willie. How are you?
Hi, Eddie. Thank you so much for having me. I am great.
So I know you're a little nervous.
A little bit, yeah.
You're going to be fine.
All right.
No worries. So let's first, before we get into everything, let's talk about Radon Express. What is Radon Express?
So we are a veteran-owned and operated radon mitigation company. My husband is also a U.S. Army Black Hawk pilot. He has been in for 18 years. So, we strictly do radon mitigation, not testing, and we are located in Will County.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So we're going to talk about radon in the next segment, but both of us just came back because you were there also.
Yes, I was there with Women's Council of Realtors.
And we'll talk about that, but let's tell them where we were at. We were at the 2019 Realtors Conference and Expo, which some people will refer to as the NAR Expo, the National Association of Realtors. And so what were some of the things that you were doing out there? So
we were out in San Fran, like I said, with the officer board for the Women's Council of Realtors West Suburban, and the majority of our educational classes were based around just learning to survive in the marketplace as a woman, ways to market ourselves, ways to grow our businesses. And we were lucky enough to have it coincide with the NAR conference. So we were able to take advantage of some of those classes and the expo as well. So
what is, for those that are listening, because they might not realize this exists, this Women's Council?
So the Women's Council of Realtors is a national organization, and our network is West Suburban. It's a great organization built with realtors, lenders, attorneys, anyone who's related to the real estate industry. And there's also a myth men can be involved. We've had men on the board in the past, but it's just a real great network of people to help encourage business growth and a real sense of community as well.
If I'm correct, I think you have, maybe not yours, but I know of a couple past presidents of the Women's Council that were also men.
Yes.
And I have a lot of friends that are on Women's Council. For those that are wondering, there are other organizations out there that could now be described as today as brother and sister organizations to the National Association. Mm-hmm. That would be the easiest way. Originally, Women's Council, sadly, and I'm glad I wasn't a Realtor at the time because I just couldn't function or understand, but there's a lot of things that, people did back in the day that were accepted and, are no longer. Sure. But women weren't allowed to join the National Association. So since they weren't allowed to join, they started their own organization, and they have been brought into the fold. There's also, organizations like NAREB, there's Realist, there's tons of them out there that support different groups, and they are allowed to, they participate within their own, but they also participate within the National Association. And it's just an amazing group of leaders that you guys produce and bring out.
We do.
I mean, you really do. I can just go through the list in my head, and just throw out tons of names of some of the amazing talent that comes out of Women's Council.
Well, and, for us, you have Carrie Little, who owns Carmark Realty, and she is a big player on not only the Women's Council national platform, but NAR as well. Brian Quillos was the president of our network a few years back, and now he is the president of Main Street Association of Realtors. So it's really a great platform to educate and learn more about the industry and then move on to something bigger and better.
Yeah, absolutely. It is really a great organization. So let's get back into the national conference. What were some of the educational stuff that you did?
So one of the classes that I took was 7 Steps to Success, and it was learning, taking a look at you as a business owner and how you market yourself, how you should be marketing yourself. It was kind of one of those moments of like, take a look in the mirror and see what's wrong, and then, digest it and change it. So that was one of my favorite courses, actually, because sometimes that's a little hard to do as business owners, is kind of, take a look and see what you can do better. So.
Now, was this your first conference?
This was my first conference,
so
yes,
you had,
national or otherwise.
You had those eyes of that. So
Yes.
My secretary treasurer, Gibby Kirby, was with us, and that was his first conference also. It was, I want to say, my 5th or 6th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've gone to quite a few. I've been very lucky to be able to, do this. But I know where he came from when he said it. It's very overwhelming.
It is. And I think, too, because I was not only coming as a first timer, but as an affiliate, not a realtor, it was a little overwhelming in that aspect, too, because, I wanted to take as much as I could from the conference and apply it to my life and my business. And it was, there weren't many affiliates there, so that was a little daunting, but it was really great to be a part of that because we work so closely with realtors. It's nice to kind of dial in on what they're doing. So,
well, yeah. And for you have to market to the public.
right.
But your business is more of a referral business.
Yeah, I mean, when we started Radon Express, we took the unpopular route, and instead of just marketing strictly to the homeowner, we looked at what was going to be new and what was going to be different. And we really started marketing to the realtors. The relationships that I have, and the trust that they have in our company. They refer us to their clients. The clients trust, they trust you guys, and they know you're not going to lead them down the wrong path with another company. So it's important to have those relationships.
Absolutely. So looking at the national and what happened at the national. So just to kind of describe it to those that are listening, this is it's a trade expo. So you have a trade expo floor in San Francisco. Because the trade expo is so large, they have to break it up into 2 different buildings, actually. And you can connect underground on these 2 buildings, and there's 250 to 300 vendors on each side. They average about 450 vendors total. So it just all depends on who, what, when, and where. So you have that. You have the classes that Rebecca spoke of. But then you also have meetings, because that's really what is truly going on from NAR standpoint. And there's 2 big votes that came out. The first, which Rebecca had some questions, and that was a vote for MLS to puts in MLS standards for NAR MLSs, and that would require basically any product or any home that's being marketed to the public has to go into the MLS within 24 hours. And that was it was a hot topic button, not as hot as I thought it was going to be, but there were some people that were really kind of upset about it. You were asking questions about that, from the non-real estate agent point of view. What were your kind of thoughts and wondering about that?
Well, my biggest question was, it did seem to be a hot button issue for some people, and I was under the impression that this already was the standard. So that was my biggest confusion.
And that's the thing, because in the Chicago market, and we're part of the MRED, our MLS. In this marketplace, it is the standard. Okay. And it's for multiple reasons this is in place. First off, from a fair housing standpoint, we are always on the correct side of that argument of trying to, we're not looking for any kind of discrimination for any reason whatsoever.
Right.
We weren't, unfortunately, the National Association wasn't always there, but we are there now. And that's, You learn from mistakes as an organization, and that was a mistake the organization had made, but now they're, in the correct aspect of it. The other aspect I personally believe, and from my own point of view, is, having faith in, and being able to put faith in the other real estate agents you work with. Mm-hmm. If someone puts a house out there and I can't show it, I can't market it because they're keeping it as a pocket or a private listing or whatever, now I have to go back to my buyer, and that undermines that buyer's agent, undermines me, and that makes it very difficult to go back. Well, it's not on the market. Well, wait, no, it is. I see it over here.
Right.
So this puts rules in place. There still can be pocket listings. There still can be private listings. You still can have requirements, and you still have confidentiality. And the model that NAR took up was very, very similar to, basically, I think the language was verbatim of what we use here in Chicago. So the second aspect that came up was a minor tweak, and that is the National Association requires real estate agents throughout the country to do code of ethics requirement training. Right now it's every 2 years, and that will be, it was 4 years, and individuals felt 4 years wasn't enough. So they moved it to 2, and now they're going to push it back to every 3 years, trying to find that happy medium.
That sweet spot.
Yeah, well, you've got, the Code of Ethics has been around for over 50 years.
Right.
It's one of the only enforceable codes. I'm sure, radon companies, or, when you guys get a license, you may have a bylaw of ethics if you joined a radon group or something, but they can't probably fine you, punish you if you break those rules.
It's not that regulated.
Yes. If I was to violate the Code of Ethics and I was to be found in violation, I can be, fined. I can be given CE. I could all the way up to having, my MLS access revoked for a time. Now, that's extremely severe and happens very, 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 very few and far between. So, but we're going to take a break, and we're going to talk about your favorite topic. We're going to talk about gas.
All right. Let's do it.
And when we get back, we'll also talk about, we're going to talk about Romeoville's market numbers, and then we'll talk about some gas, which is good, though, because it seems like their inventory is starting to get a little inflated. Okay, pun intended there. Stick around here, folks, at 1340 WJOL, and we'll be right back. JOL, it's Get Real with Eddie Ruettiger from Baird and Warner, and I am here with Rebecca Willie co-hosting today, and I cannot pass up the fact of talking about radon, but before we do that, since we have you here, let's talk about some market numbers, and we're going to look at Romeoville today. So new listings are up 23.6%. Closed sales are down 15.9%. Inventory is up 34.7%. So that is a big jump in inventory when we're looking at these numbers. The median sales price is $213. Up 6.5%, which is my favorite number. I love to see growth. It's in the sixes. The average sales price is $271. That is a 4.8% increase in sales price. That's Terry. I don't know if you've listened to us when Terry's on. Terry likes 3s to 4s in growth. Okay. She worries about markets getting overinflated. I like this 5 to 6.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't get nervous when it gets starting 8 or 9. That's when I start worrying about it. But here's the big number that I like out of this: original list price received. They're getting 97.1% on original list price, and that's down 0.1%. Market time is 59 days, and that is a 22% increase in market time. But I don't look at the percentage because you're going from 48 to 59 days.
Right.
That market's so low. Those numbers are so low. 1 day is a huge jump.
Huge percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at the attached single family, we have a median sales price of $175. That's a 5.4% increase. The average is 178.37. That is a 4% increase in the average sales price. Again, a percentage of original list price, 98.1%, and that's still down 0.3. Market time, however, has dropped on attached units, and that is down to 33 days.
Wow. That's significant.
That is a 38.9% drop in market time. That's just kind of amazing on a market time drop. Any numbers, because you have a different view of all of these when you see this. You have more of the consumer view.
I do. And I mean, when I look at this, it tells me people are moving to Romeoville. And the people that are moving to Romeoville, I mean, the price of their homes are appreciating, and that's a big deal. I know there's so much going on with the infrastructure as far as roadways, and it kind of seems to be, a hot area right now.
The parking for that, because I've spoken to the mayor and heard the mayor speak, and he talks about the new train stop that's there. That parking lot sold out. They added on, sold out again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing on that aspect, and you are seeing a return on your investment when you see where can you go out and get a 6% return?
Right. I mean, that's a solid number.
Yeah. You have to struggle looking for that in the stock market.
Yeah.
You're looking at, and then it's iffy. Well, it could be 6% today, but tomorrow, boom, hot shoe, someone sneezes, and guess what? That's gone. So, all right. Let's talk gas, because that's what you deal with.
That's what I deal with.
What is radon gas, first off? So
radon is what we consider a lazy gas. It is a gas that's found everywhere in the environment. When it's outside, it's at a very, very low level. So you're at like a 0.1 to a 0.4. It's dissipated. But when radon gas is found in a home, that's when it becomes concerning at higher levels. So like I said, it's a lazy gas. It comes up from underneath the foundation and then essentially gets trapped in the home.
And from what I understand, when you say it comes up from the foundation, it's coming, when I explain it to my clients, do you remember your Geology 101 class? Mm-hmm. Okay. And rocks have that half-life.
Yep.
And when a rock is basically decaying, is it radium that's in the ground? So it does come from radium. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. I wasn't 100% sure. Now I have an expert that just verified that. So you could have a piece of radium that is the size of my pinky nail, and it could be a mile down underground and a mile to the left of your house. But it starts decaying, so it gives off gas as the byproduct.
Correct.
And gas, of course, just like if you take a cup of water and hold it under, or a cup of air and hold it underwater, it wants to bubble up. It wants to come to the surface.
Exactly. And in the summer months, in the spring and fall, it can do so, through the ground. And then when you're in an area like this and you have winters that are a lot colder, especially like right now, that radon is having a hard time coming up through the ground. It's a lot easier to go through concrete, which is super porous. And that's why you see in this time of the year, radon levels are a little bit higher.
And you just threw out a concept people are trying, wait, concrete's porous? Yes, concrete is very porous. Well, not very porous, but it is porous. Mm-hmm. And I've seen it coming up from different ways. It can come up through sump pumps. Mm-hmm. It can come up through where the concrete wall and the concrete floor meet, because there is a very small gap there.
Yep.
It's enough for gas to fit through. I've also seen it come up through pressure, because you have usually under a concrete floor, mm-hmm. a small gap. That's where usually they put that like pea gravel base.
Correct.
And you've got that's just small air pocket there. Might be an inch, might be even less, maybe 2 inches. But the gas starts building up there, and then it builds up more and more. And then finally, because of it wanting to push up, it'll push up, yep. And you'll see cracks in the concrete, and it'll come through it'll form cracks and push through and crack the concrete.
Yep, that's absolutely right. And the thing about radon, right now it's a buzzword. People hear it and they get freaked out. Radon is a problem, but it's a problem that can be solved. And that's what we try to tell people, especially when it relates to real estate. Just because you have a home that comes back with high radon doesn't mean you should pass on the home. You can get it fixed, you can get those levels mitigated, and then it becomes a non-issue.
And my house has radon. I should say my house has a radon system. We had it mitigated. So my system was a costly system for the seller. The seller's the one that paid for it. But they had a choice. They could have either paid for it or they could have disclosed to the next buyer because I wasn't going to buy it.
Right.
As a real estate agent, I can tell you if a buyer sees radon, they're walking. If it's disclosed, they're walking. They're not going to deal with that because usually if they're disclosing it, they already know that the seller's not going to mitigate.
Right.
So my system, and the reason why my system was a little bit more of a costly system, I have a dirt crawl space on part of my house. That's when they start getting expensive because you have to visqueen over that, seal the visqueen and seal the system, basically almost creating a balloon would be a good way to look at it, maybe.
Yeah, when you have a gravel or a dirt crawl space, it has to be encapsulated. So what we're trying to do is create a vapor barrier that we can pull underneath from, and it creates almost like you said, like a balloon, and it suctions the inability for the radon to travel through that crawl space into the home.
And then I always tell my clients, like water, like electricity, gas likes the path of least resistance. So then you crack a pipe and you put it through the cement floor.
Correct.
To get to that little pocket that I talked about underneath the floor. So now instead of pushing through the floor, it just pushes right up the pipe and right out the house.
Exactly. And we don't even just push into that pocket. We remove 10 to 15 gallons of debris, whatever that is, clay, dirt. Sometimes it's huge boulders that we have to break through. And we're creating a suction point, a bigger pocket that really allows us to pull as much radon as efficiently so that fan can have a longer shelf life on the home then.
Yeah, and then that's the next part of that is then you have a fan usually in the attic or on the outside. Mine's in the attic because of my system. Mine went out through the garage.
Okay.
So usually when they're going out through the garage, it goes in the attic.
Correct.
If it goes out the side of your house, then usually your fan's on the outside of the home.
Yes.
And you have that reverse gutter on the outside of the house that people are like, why do they got the rain gutter on backwards? No, it's not a rain gutter. So it's a great system to be put in. And I mean, average price though is not. What do you say your average cost is?
So we have a range, obviously. There's 3 different types of systems, depending upon whether you have a gravel crawl space, a cement crawl space, or just a finished or unfinished basement. But our prices range from about $1,100 to $1,800 total, dependent upon what type of system is needed in your home. But for a basic system, I mean, we're averaging around $1,200.
Yeah, and that's what we see. We see anywhere with the contracts and deals I'm involved with, $1,200 to $1,500 is on average. It really can get more expensive when you get into those dirt crawl spaces.
Yeah, I mean, the thing to remember about radon is if installed properly, if the system is installed properly, the level of radon doesn't necessarily matter. So those prices should be tied to the specs of the home, the age of the home, the setup of the home, not necessarily the radon level.
Yeah, whatever that score that comes back, whether it's a 6, 9, 12, 26. Yeah. So before we go to break, we're going to talk about do you know a buyer? That's right. We got a property up for sale. This is a wonderful townhouse. It is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths in Joliet, right back behind the Joliet Mall. It is at 2937 Woodside Drive. It is listed for $190,000. We got it up on our Get Real with Eddie page, so just go to getrealwitheddie.com and you can see the YouTube walkthrough on that we got with all the pictures and everything like that. But it's a great property if you're looking to start off. great location, and if you need something that's maintenance free, this is definitely a property you want to check out. Lower property taxes, you're under $4,000 on taxes. The monthly association fee is $150 a month. So yeah, go to getrealwitheddy.com so you can check out 2937 Woodside Drive. So when we come back, Rebecca, we're going to talk another topic that is dear to your heart, I am sure. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be talking, since it was Veterans Day on Monday, we're going to be talking VA loans and benefits of using a VA to purchase a house. So stick around here, 1340 WJOL. Let's get real with. Get real with Eddie here on 1340 WJOL with my host Rebecca Willie from Radon Express, and we're going to talk VA homes since it was Veterans Day. Now, Veterans Day has a big meaning for me personally. My grandfather was a veteran. He served in the Korean War. And my father my real dad is a first responder. He is a retired state trooper now, but he was a state trooper, and he was shot in the line of duty when I was a child. And so I know what first responder families go through on a personal level. So Memorial Day and Veterans Day, these days mean a lot to me personally. I know your husband serves. We talked about that.
He does, yes. He's had 2 deployments overseas, and has been in for about 18 years in the U.S. Army.
Well, thank you, and thank your husband for his service. Absolutely. So we got some numbers here. VA loans in 2018, 610,513 loans guaranteed. Interest rate reduction loans were 67,347. An average loan amount was $264,197. There are 161 billion in total loans for VA loans. And this program, I think, is still so underutilized. All right. This is something that has been earned by these men and women. And this is something that they should be taking advantage of. It is 100% down, 100% loan. There is no down payment when, you go to buy a house. You can buy a home. You can buy a condo. You can build a home. You can refinance. You can even make home improvements on the property. Now, when you guys bought your last property, did you take advantage of his VA benefits?
We did.
You did. Mm-hmm. How was the process, and how was that?
I will tell you, it's the second home we've done on a VA loan, and the process was super different because of one thing. Our first time going through the process, we didn't know the company we were using. We kind of just did a company that was based out of another state that marketed themselves as like the VA home loan company. And it did us a great disservice because we didn't know the process. This time, we went with a local lender who was very educated on the process, taught us a lot of things that we didn't know about the loan that we were taking out, just what our options really were. They've changed a lot of things as far as the jumbo loan that is now available, as part of a VA loan, which is a big deal.
It is a big deal. So for those that didn't know, the way the VA benefits worked was you had $420,000 roughly, I want to say, that you were able to finance out. Okay, well, we're in the Will County area. Most people go, well, I can buy a great house for $420,000. Well, that's great. But if you're a veteran that served in San Francisco, where we just came back, you're not even you're getting maybe a condo, a studio condo for $420,000. And that was part of the problem that we were running into. So actually, NAR, the National Association of Realtors, we were lobbying and we were pushing, and we did get the VA loan limit lifted. So now there is no loan limit. The limit on the loan is based on any other loan, and that is based on income. If you make a solid income and your loan is based on that amount, and that's how they determine whether you and what price range you can get the loan at. And I think it's amazing about that. So benefits of doing VA. So it is a no down payment loan. There is no private mortgage insurance. Okay. Low credit score requirements. There are limitation on closing costs. So there's only so much there could be for closing costs. And they do average lower interest rates. So there's not a big jump on interest rates. I see that with first-time down payment assistance programs. And I have honest conversations with my client that, okay, well, they're like, well, I'm getting $5,000 or $6,000. Yeah, you're getting $5,000 or $6,000, but the cost of doing the loan is $3,000 more than a regular loan.
Right.
And the interest rate is a quarter or a half a point or whatever higher than the average market. So in some cases, yes, do a down payment assistance program. It's always better to own than it is to rent.
Right.
All right. But they're not, if you can do it without doing the down payment assistance, you're always in a better position and a better situation. And that's the thing. If you have the opportunity and the ability to do a VA loan, do it.
Well, and it's something that, like you said, is earned. It's something that the men and women who have served in the military have worked really hard for. And I think the culture used to be to just kind of push it aside as an option because there are these other programs available. But it's finding yourself a realtor like yourself who will educate the buyer on, you have this available. Let's really dive in and see if this is the right option to you, for you, I think is such a great thing.
So here's who can apply. So those who have served 90 consecutive days during wartime or 181 consecutive days during peacetime, more than 6 years in the National Guard or Reserves, the spouses or service members who has died in the line of duty as a result of a service-related or something that's related to a service disability. So those are the individuals that qualify. I can tell you right up front, you need your DD 214. Did I say that right?
Yes, DD 214.
Yes, DD 214. I always feel like when I have to say that, I'm from, remember the cartoon Monsters, Inc.?
Oh, yeah.
Where they yell at the number because they're like a sock came through and they all tackle him and they shave the poor monster down and he's got no hair. Yeah, so you need that. The other aspect that you need to know is if your agent, your broker, real estate agent, whoever you're working with is not experienced in this, you want them to ask in the negotiations for the seller to pay for a termite. A termite inspection has to be done on a VA loan. There is no negotiations on it. That's number one. Termite has to be done. And number two, the buyer cannot pay for it. Anybody else can pay for it, but the buyer cannot. So that veteran is not allowed to pay for the termite. With that being said, so you really, if the buyer can't pay for it, your next and the easiest option is to go to and ask the seller.
Right.
So you ask the seller. I've told clients, hey, I've never forgot to ask for the termite, but if I ever did, I'd be the first one pulling out my checkbook going, okay, I forgot. That's on me because I know better, and I'd be signing the check in 30 seconds to get them the termite.
Well, and it helps when you're a consumer going through the VA process to have your realtor go to bat for you. A VA loan is different. And so if your realtor is educated like you are, Eddie, I mean, it goes a long way in the process.
It goes a huge way to have someone that has that experience. And really, there's very simple. We've got training all around on VA loans. There's lenders that do training on VA loans because the lenders are always looking to do these kind of programs.
Right.
I mean, so it's out there and it's easy to get the information if they're a real estate agent. Definitely something that I don't think is taken advantage of. When total purchases. So this is total purchases by state. For the state of Illinois in 2018, there were 7,349 purchases made using a VA loan. And my understanding, that's for the year 2018. That just seems to me like a low number.
Well, especially when you have there's a large Navy population, obviously, in upstate Illinois. These numbers should be larger, but I think there's just not enough education still, on the issue to push people into using the benefits that they've worked so hard for.
Yeah, and it is an education issue. It truly is an education. And I've even gone out of my way to start asking, do you have military service? Mm-hmm. And when I meet with a client first time, because I've had clients going, oh yeah. I go, well, have you considered using your VA benefits and doing a VA loan? I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, most people don't. Shockingly, they just don't think about it.
And here's the thing: it also helps to use a good lender,
right?
Because
absolutely.
I love to sing praises of Terry, but we had a opportunity for a buyer, and I remember it very specifically. The buyer could have gone VA. The buyer chose not to go VA because they did get a better deal because they were coming in.
Right.
They had the ability to do 20% down. And so those numbers actually did work to their advantage to not do it. So that's where having a really good trusted team comes into place.
Absolutely.
So absolutely. Well, Rebecca, thank you for coming out. Are you enjoying us next week? Can you come back next week?
I would love to be here next week.
Wonderful. All right, we'll bring you back next week. And it was a blast. See, what nerves better?
Gone.
Yeah. Piece of cake. See, she was really nervous, folks. Did a great job. It was awesome. And thank you for everything you do with Women's Council.
Of course.
Rebecca's also our chair this year for our affiliates committee at the Three Rivers Association, and she is just crushing it.
Thank you.
Coming up with great new ideas, making my job as the leader of the association a lot more simpler and a lot less complex.
Well, thank you, Eddie.
I really appreciate all the work that she's done. So we're going to bring Rebecca back next week, co-host, and we're going to bring in Derek Conley next week from the city of Joliet. He's the economic developer, and we're going to be talking about what businesses get to come into Joliet and how that gets decided.
That's exciting.
Seriously, because I know everybody gripes about we don't need another mattress store.
Right.
So we're going to be talking about that next week, and I can't wait. So stick around for ABC News here on 1340 WJOL.